I did it. I went back to the library to try out another game. You'd think that I would have learned my lesson after Thor, Captain America, Hyper Fighters, and Jaws. You'd think that I'd have figured out by now that library is a burial ground for every shitty game that's ever existed. But nope. I went back and I got another game. I went back for more and I decided to rent Men in Black Alien Crisis. And sure enough, Alien Crisis is bad. So bad. Alien Crisis was released to coincide with the release of Men in Black 3 over the summer, and the front of the game's box actually has a coupon for $10 off when you go see the movie. When one of a game's selling points is buy this game and we'll give you $10 free, if they have to pay you to play the game, that's your first warning sign to stay the hell away. Run for the hills. Do not buy this game! The game's story has nothing to do with Agent J or K from the movies. Instead, the story revolves around newly recruited MIB Agent P. The name stands for Peter Delacour, which is the guy's name, except to me the Agent P means piece of shit, as in this game is one. Anyway, Agent Ponce is an art thief who steals an ancient Egyptian book for some nerdy guy called Chauncey. The book is actually an alien superweapon that Chauncey wants to use to take over the world. Agent Piss fights off a group of aliens and then gets drafted into MIB on account of he's the only guy who knows anything about the book. He gets paired up with Agent C and gets sent to take the book back before the world gets blown up. The game does have some more story to it than that, though. There are two alien races called the Adorians and the Nakadan that are having a civil war, but they're both assholes, so you end up slaughtering both of them. There's a prince and a princess who were in love, but they're dead, only maybe they're not dead, and the book and another artifact transform people into the prince and princess, or maybe they just alter people's brainwaves, and neither the prince nor the princess even vaguely resemble the other members of their respective species. You blow up an alien ship, which somehow activates another alien ship, which may or may not be the same ship that you infiltrate at the end of the game. Agents J and K are missing, and then at the end of the game they're not anymore, and the Nakadans start looking for some glowing purple orb that's never mentioned or explained, and there's another group of aliens that are like the Men in Black who are also monitoring the Civil War, except they don't do anything, and somehow all three alien races want to blow up the planet. I don't know where to stop. This game's story is a tangled, incoherent mess, a creative black hole from which logic and sense can neither enter nor escape, and I swear that I tried to pay attention to what was going on. That list of random crap that I just rambled off is the simplest, most logical description of the plot that I can give you. Whatever, here's all the story that you'll understand or care about. Agent Pants, a wisecracking laid-back jokester, gets drafted into MIB and paired up with a strict, uptight female agent who ends up being his love interest. That's all you need to know, and that's all you'll understand once the game is over. Of course, before getting to join MIB, Agent Pony has to complete the good old training simulator where you blow the crap out of wave after wave of aliens. Wasn't the entire point of the gallery scene in the first Men in Black movie to demonstrate that MIB only takes agents that can think critically and not just any crackpot that can shoot a gun? What happened to that? Oh right, designing levels that require the player to think is hard. Anyway, Alien Crisis is divided into 4 different kinds of levels. There are shooting levels, stealth levels, investigation levels, and car shooting levels. Shooting levels are the primary mode of the game. The shooting levels are literally just several successions of shooting galleries. You have no ability to run forward or backward, your character can only move side to side. Enemies run in, take cover, and then pop in and out of cover, and once all the enemies are dead, your character automatically runs to the next shooting gallery. Each shooting gallery has pieces of cover that you can hide behind, and if you're behind cover, you are rendered completely immune to damage. The only way that you can get knocked out of cover is if the computer throws an anti-gravity grenade at you, which you can avoid by getting out of cover for 2 seconds and then going back. But here's the one giant pulsating problem that completely ruins the game. Your health bar is so huge and the enemies drop so many health power-ups that you pretty much have to have a stroke to get yourself killed. Even if you don't use cover and aren't terribly accurate with your aiming, if you pick up about a third of the health power-ups that the enemies drop, you'll be at full strength most of the time that you play. And the enemies are easy as crap to kill because most of the enemies die in one hit. I was going to say that this game is way too easy, but it goes beyond that. This game was made for stupid people, because if you put even a little bit of effort into how you play, you will never come close to dying. In the last 2 chapters, the game brings out a few bad guys with shotguns that can kill you with about 4 hits, but that's not ramping up the difficulty, that's just being cheap. Besides, even if you do happen to fall asleep and get killed, it doesn't hurt you too much because you pass a checkpoint every few seconds. The game gives you a few weapons to cycle between as you play, but what I find interesting, or a poor design, you pick, is that the game gives you the best gun, called the Adorian crossbow, at the very start of the game. At the end of the first stealth level, the game goes, "Hey look, you unlocked Kay's gun from the first movie, yay! Except it's inferior in every conceivable way to the Adorian crossbow that I already have, so I will never ever use it." When MIB put you through a training course, you just out of nowhere fight Serlina from the end of Men in Black 2, and the game goes, "Hey look, now you've got Jay's triple barrel shotgun from the end of the first movie, yay! Except the tri-barrel gun runs on ammo while my Adorian crossbow does not, so I'm not going to use this gun either." Each gun has an attachment, and the game advises attachments are very useful, so make full use of them. I couldn't agree more. The attachment for the Adorian crossbow that you get at the start of the game is an everything-proof shield, so I don't need any of the other attachments. You also get a weapon called the Banger that I didn't bother using, and when I went to look up a description of the Banger, I found out that it's a high-tech shotgun. Are you kidding me? You're giving me a shotgun, a close-range weapon, in a game where you never fight enemies at close range? And yes, some guns are more powerful than others, and the Adorian crossbow is probably the weakest weapon, except the Adorian crossbow can kill most of the enemies in one hit. Giving me stronger guns against normal enemies is like giving me a slightly bigger boot to stomp ants with. I kind of feel bad. It's like the Men in Black are giving me all these neat toys to use, and I'm just saying, no thanks, I really like this crossbow that I found randomly lying around in the middle of the street. And here's something that truly confuses the hell out of me. I pull out the tri-barrel gun during boss fights, of which there are about 2 in the game, and Agent Pinky keeps stopping to reload the gun when its magazine is nowhere close to empty. The magazine has 87 out of 100 rounds left. Stop reloading the gun after every shot, you stupid twit! The game flashes hints before each level, and the hints are really eager to tell you that you should use weapon attachments to give yourself an edge in combat. But again, the attachment that you have with the Adorian crossbow at the start of the game is a shield that protects you from all enemy attacks, so you'll never use anything else. You can supposedly use anti-gravity grenades to force enemies out of cover, but the grenades have such a small blast radius that unless you're exactly precise with your throw, the grenade won't do anything. There's an attachment that temporarily slows time, but I never found myself needing to use that since the game is so easy to begin with, and I'd be eternally grateful if somebody could explain to me what the freezer attachment is supposed to do, because every time that I used the freezer on an enemy, nothing freaking happened! The hints also recommend that you can scan the environment regularly to try and discover secrets, hidden items, or enemy weak points. Well, I tried scanning the environment several times during the shooting levels, and do you know how many secrets and enemy weak points I found? 0! Nada! Zip! Bupkis! It's like the game's programmers forgot that they were going to make scanning a big part of the game, so scanning in these levels does nothing except waste your time. Given that you're the Men in Black and stealth and secrecy are kind of what you're all about, some missions have an exposure meter that fills when you shoot civilians or destroy civilian property. Exposure meter? The civilians can see the aliens running amok and shooting stuff. I think exposure is a moot point now. So I'm not supposed to shoot at civilians. Fine, I can deal with that. Except 1, there are only 2 shooter levels with an exposure meter in the game, and 2, the civilians in this game are too stupid to live! One time a civilian tried to run away from the fighting, and he got stuck on a coffee table and started running in place, and the only alien left in the area was right behind him, so I started shooting the crap out of this dumb asshole who doesn't know how to duck, because it was physically impossible for me to hit the alien around the civilian. The only reason I was able to kill the alien was because the alien tried to throw an anti-gravity grenade at me, but the grenade dropped at his feet, and the explosion dislodged the civilian from the piece of furniture that he was stuck on. And when I was recording this footage, the same civilians kept running in front of me while I was shooting over and over and over again. And I swear the aliens are specifically programmed to hide behind civilians that are too stupid to run. Of course, it's not just the civilians that suffer from retarded AI. About half the time when a bad guy throws a grenade at you, the grenade gets stuck on a piece of scenery and it doesn't reach you. Tip for the bad guys: learn to aim! Oh, right, I've got 3 other gameplay modes to bitch about yet. Stealth levels are exactly like shooting levels, except the objective is to complete each gallery without getting detected by the enemies. You use the silenced gun to shoot out cameras, and you use a bubble gun to take out guards. These levels are kind of like puzzles, only extremely easy. You shoot the cameras first, and then you take out the guards because the cameras will notice unconscious guards that you've bubbled. 1. Guards are nowhere in sight after they've been bubbled. How are the cameras spotting what's not there? 2. How come the cameras notice unconscious guards that are supposedly lying on the floor, but the other guards don't notice them? And if the bubble gun does make enemies disappear, how come none of the guards notice that their comrade has spontaneously wandered off? Oh, and if you get spotted, just take cover. Enemies will shrug you off, and none of the enemies will think to look behind your pieces of cover. I could have sworn that I just saw some guy dressed in black behind that block over there. And I just saw several flashes of light like from a space gun fire from the general direction of that block, and we're on the lookout for members of the Men in Black who dress in black and wield such space guns. I'm sure it's nothing. Seriously, these guards are blind as bats. They put the guys in Metal Gear to shame. Some stages are what I've come to call investigation levels, where you have to walk around an enclosed environment interrogating people to gain information. You walk around talking to people, you're given dialogue options to move each conversation along, and you can scan objects in the area to unlock new dialogue options for different people. Sounds great, but here's the problem. It is impossible to fail these! It doesn't matter what dialogue option you select because you're pretty much forced to select all of them anyway. None of the dialogue options that you can select are bad or result in you failing a level in some way, and if you don't get anywhere with the dialogue options you're given, the object that you're supposed to scan to finish the level are pretty freaking easy to spot. Well, except for the time where you have to scan a cell phone sitting on a table, which is mostly obscured by the lousy camera, and I wandered around the level for 15 minutes until I found the phone on accident. These investigation levels aren't interesting or challenging, they're just a way for the game to dump exposition on the player without grinding the game to a halt for a cutscene. It's great that they try to incorporate agent activities into the game, the problem is that they suck at it.
Hey, great party, huh? Hey, great party, huh?
And finally, there are car driving levels where you shoot at enemies in the flying car from the second movie. These could have been cool if you actually flew the car, but instead these levels are just rail shooter segments where the position of your cursor vaguely determines where your car goes on the screen. Just like the regular shooter levels, you're given so many health power-ups that it's pretty much impossible to fail these missions. Plus, you can press one button to fire a ton of missiles and kill every enemy on the screen at once. You're only supposed to have a few of those, but when I'm playing these levels I keep looking at my ammo count, and my supply of missiles mysteriously keeps refilling. The levels are easy enough without them, but for good measure the game gives you instantly blow up everything on screen missiles to make things even easier. The flying levels also have exposure meters that fill if you destroy civilian property, but the meter goes down if you fly through neuralizer gates. And the neuralizer gates are really big and easy to fly through, and you run into one every couple of seconds. Do you see what I mean about this game being too damn easy, even for a game that's too damn easy? And if it sounds like the game has a ton of variety, it really doesn't. The game is 4 hours long. That only leaves room for a few short investigation levels, a few short flying levels, and some short stealth levels. Most of the game is just repetitive shooting against repetitive enemies with some uninteresting and repetitive basic guns. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that I played the entire game with the Adorian crossbow. The only time that I switched weapons was when I used the tri-barrel for the final boss fight. I also briefly switched guns to see what the noisy cricket does, and it got me killed because the boss decided to use her bullshit one-hit kill attack, and apparently the cricket can only be fired once each century. That means that I spent about 3 hours shooting identical enemies with a gun that never runs out of ammo, and with a health bar that must have been blessed by God, for it never ran empty until I used that damn cricket. So I spent roughly 3 hours basically playing the game on God mode without having used a single cheat code to do so. As the game went on, the game just got so damn monotonous that I was just playing the game on autopilot, sometimes using cover, sometimes not, because it didn't make any difference so long as I had a clear shot at the alien that was looking at me funny. The game became boring, and that's one of the worst things that you can say about a game. I'll bitch to no end about how Superman 64 is a horrible game, but at least it was never boring. I was too pissed off and confused to be bored. The only quasi-positive thing that I can say about Alien Crisis is that the writing is, admittedly, kind of funny. Agent Pain in the Ass never shuts his agent pie hole, and he spews jokes and wisecracks all the time. Ashamed as I am to admit it, about 2/3 of his lines had me laughing out loud.
What difficulty is this set at?
Futile.
Anything else?
Yeah, don't get killed.
You okay?
Yeah. Concrete broke my fall.
If only this writing talent had been applied towards making the plot comprehensible. But you know what? Games are called games because you play them, and if the only mildly positive thing I can think of about Alien Crisis is that Agent Peacepipe's stand-up routine is decent, then the game must be pretty damn bad. And it is bad. My review isn't entirely fair. Since I only had the game for 3 days, I didn't try out the harder difficulty setting or the multiplayer mode or the virtual reality missions where you play until you reach a predetermined score. But the thing is, after 4 hours of monotonous shooting and incomprehensible plot, I have no desire to do any of those things anyway. Men in Black Alien Crisis is just another bland, rushed-out cash-grab movie tie-in game designed to extract money from fans of the classic film. Forget $10 for the movies. The game should come packaged with a free neuralizer so that you can forget that you ever wasted your time or money on this piece of junk. But that's not going to happen, so we'll just have to resort to our other method of repressing memories. Heavy drinking. Happy New Year!
Suits, ties, suits, ties. I thought my old prep school had a strict dress code.